Can a language model catch its own lies? That's the question we set out to answer. And it actually matters more than it sounds. Small open source language models, the kinds you can run on a laptop with no cloud connection and no API key, are increasingly the models people actually use day to day for tutoring, coding help, drafting emails, quick research. They're cheap, private, and easy to run. But that convenience does come with a catch. If a model that small can't tell a true answer from one it just made up and can't recognize a fabrication when it's shown one, that's a real problem for anyone trusting it without double checking. And we tested three of these models to find out. Here's the core idea our whole project rests on. When people say a model hallucinates, they're usually smashing two completely different skills into one word. Skill one, can the model generate text that's actually true? Skill two, if you hand it an answer and ask whether it's made up, can it recognize that? Think of it like the difference between writing an essay and grading one. Those are not the same talent. A model can write solid answers, but be terrible at catching fake ones or the reverse. Most hallucination research only measures one of these skills and reports it as hallucination score for the whole model. What we decided to do was measure both. On the same three models and the same questions, we could actually see where those two skills agree and when they pull apart. We call these protocol A and protocol B. So, protocol A is discrimination. Give the model a passage and one candidate answer. Ask it yes or no. Is this hallucinated? Protocol B is free generation. So no candidate at all. The model just answers on its own, and we score that answer against a correct reference and a fake one using word overlap. We actually ran this on Llama 3.2, Quinn 3, and Gemma 3, all in the 1 to 2 billion parameter range with 200 judgments and 110 free generation items per model. One engineering lesson worth actually sharing: Quinn 3 has a hidden reasoning mode that, if left on, silently burns its whole response budget and returned empty answers. So we explicitly switched it off to get real results. So, how good were these models at spotting fakes? Honestly, not great. And the headline number is actually misleading. So, Llama posted the best looking F1 score, a 0.674. It does sound solid, except Llama said, yes, this is hallucinated on 92.5% of everything we showed it. That's 185 out of 200 times. That's not really detection. That's just saying yes almost always and getting lucky because roughly half of the candidates actually were fake. Only nine true negatives in the entire run. We dug into some individual examples as well. Llama flagged the correct answer, Badahari, as hallucinated, yet correctly cleared the faithful answer, Desal, on another item. So the bias is strong, but not a rigid, consistent reflex. Quinn, on the other hand, was more balanced but far less accurate, at 28% overall. Gemma landed in between, but bottom line, none of these three models show real discrimination skill once you look past the F1 number. How good are these models at just answering on their own? Let's dive into Protocol B. So, without being shown a candidate to judge, overall accuracy was 46, 42, and 46% for Llama, Quinn, and Gemma. But that single number hides a huge split by task. Question answering was actually solid, 68 to 74%, because short factual answers are easy to score correctly. Now, summarization collapsed down to as low as 10% because a genuinely good summary can still lose a word overlap contest to a fabricated one that happens to share more vocabulary with the source. We also trained simple classifiers on the overlap score, and those hit 64 to 86%. But that's the classifier detecting the score's rules on error, not the model suddenly writing better answers. Here's the findings we're most excited about. Task difficulty flips depending on which protocol you use. QA is the easiest task for free generation. Models nailed it 68 to 74% of the time, but QA is one of the hardest tasks for discrimination. Quinn dropped all the way to 20% on it. Same task, same model, opposite difficulty, just depending on whether we ask it to answer or to judge. Meanwhile, longer tasks like summarization and dialogue go the other way. easier to judge than to generate well. If you built one blended hallucination leaderboard out of this, averaging discrimination and generation into a single number, you'd scramble both the model rankings and the task ranking. And that's exactly why we report these separately instead of collapsing them into one score. So, what do we actually learn and why should you care? Two things. First, methodology lesson. Discrimination and generation are generally different capabilities, and you can't infer one from the other. If a model writes well, that tells you nothing about whether it can catch its own mistakes. And if a model flags candidates as hallucinated, check whether it's actually discriminating or just saying yes, sir, to everything the way Llama was. Second, the stakes. These are actually the models people are deploying right now in local chatbots, coding assistants, and self hosted tools, often without a human checking every answer. If a model can't reliably tell truth from fabrication, then any pipeline that asks it to check itself is unreliable by construction. That's not hypothetical, it's how a lot of small local AI tools are actually built today. For now, the practical rule is simple: don't trust a small model to grade its own homework without checking its bias, its confusion matrix, and which tasks you're actually asking it to do. Thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.